Hello and welcome to Shikanime. My name is Lauren and today I'm going to be looking at another lore video, a background on the Demiurge. This one is about how strong he is as opposed to just who and what. So I'm looking forward to this. I enjoyed the last video. I'm looking forward to this one. I think after I watch this video, I will probably just go back and just start watching basically this whole playlist of the Annie News, just all this background information and lore. I've been interested. It seems like other people have been fairly interested. So I am looking forward to learning more about these characters, especially because the movie's coming out soon. So I'm hoping to get through it by the time it is out, especially before season 5 as well. So I hope y'all are excited. I certainly am. Let us begin.
Here we are, back again with another video that will hopefully answer the question in the title by not actually answering the question at all. How strong is Demiurge?
Okay.
Unlike Albedo, we've actually seen him in combat, with Ainz himself nonetheless, though it was more of a play fight than anything.
Yeah.
One for show that certainly was not representative of the full extent of either of their powers. So let's take a look at everything from his class and race build to his abilities and equipment and see if he's actually worthy of being known as the creator of the Blazing Inferno as his name infers. Oh, and very quickly, I made a shirt with a modified Nazareth
that's
emblem,
cool.
so it has an A and an N in it. You know, for Annie News, right?
That's really
But yeah,
cool.
If you're interested, you can go ahead and buy those from the link in the description. Now, let's begin.
I like that. I like that a lot.
If you weren't able to tell by now, Demiurge is a demon, which as you should know by now is part of the collection of heteromorphic races, and thus it gives him access to a full racial class tree in addition to the normal job class tree. Of his known levels, 35 are dedicated to race classes, of which only 15 are known. There's 10 levels in Imp, and another 5 levels in Archdevil, leaving a further 20 that are unaccounted for. The remaining 65 of
That's a
his
lot of
levels are
levels
devoted to job
unaccounted
classes,
for.
including 10 levels in Shapeshifter, 10 levels in Prince of Darkness, and 10 levels in Chaos, leaving 35 unaccounted for. And
That's
pretty
lot!
much it for the verifiable facts about his build. As I've said
Oh my god, that's
before,
almost nothing.
information on the mechanics of Demiurge's classes and races are very far and few between in the light novel. It's even harder to figure out exactly what they do, or how they even fit into the rest of his build, because in this case, we can't rely as heavily on Dungeons & Dragons to guide us in interpreting the names like we did last time. As a result, the bulk of this video will include some speculation, but I'll be sure to make an effort to separate that from the facts. It seems that, unlike Dungeons & Dragons, Yggdrasil does not differentiate between devils and demons. In Yggdrasil, devils are a subspecies of demons, whereas in Dungeons & Dragons, they were two distinct species. Both types of creatures were evil, but they came from different dimensions and had slightly different personalities. Devils were more rules-oriented and structured, whereas demons were haphazard and wild. In short, devils were, well, devilish, while demons were, well, demonic. There is a difference, and just for reference, Demiurge embodies the meaning of lawful evil.
Yeah, I guess there is, like, you know, you don't hear people talking about you cheeky demon. It's just you cheeky devil. It's like, it feels a little bit more lighthearted almost.
Fusion, I'm just going to refer to the devils and demons from Dungeons & Dragons as fiends, and then the term that I'll use to refer to Yggdrasils will just be demons. So D&D is fiends, and Overlord is demons. Got it? Okay.
Yes.
Demiurge is a known mix of Imp and Archdevil. Imps mythologically are just small flying creatures, and they're among the weakest of the fiends. They're probably just the base race for all flying demons. Archdevil, on the other hand, looks to be like a rare demon class, meaning it was powerful but difficult to unlock and capped out at level 5. The Arch prefix simply meant chief or highest, as in the highest devil. In order to reach it, one probably had to max out multiple other demon race classes, which is most likely where his other 20 unknown levels went. As for his classes now, yeah, Chaos, Prince of Darkness, sure, whatever those are. Shapeshifter, on the other hand, is pretty obvious. This refers to his ability to shift his shape. See what I did there? It's how he's able to turn into a frog, and presumably he has access to many other forms as well. I mean, I can't imagine why
I would like to see another one other than just the frog. I don't know why he always goes for the frog thing. It's a weird choice, I think.
Spend 10 levels in a shapeshifter class just to give themselves a frog head and some wings. But with this division of levels, what is he actually capable of? To know this, we first have to look at what his creator had in mind when he designed him. Ulbert Elaine Odell envisioned Demiurge as a battlefield commander and strategist. Yeah, he had a greater calling than bipedal sheep farmer. He saw a commander who believed that victory and defeat was determined before a battle was even fought. So it would seem his build is focused on summoning and buffing other demons en masse, though he can also be a support mage that buffs allies and debuffs enemies, or even transforms himself to improve his close combat potential. In battle,
Kinda like
this would be
Mystique.
described as the role of a skirmisher, one who's flexible enough to support from the back line or fight in the front line. But he's really just designed to wear down his foes with large quantities of weaker enemies as befitting his lore as the demon commander. Combine these mass summons with an area of effect buff amongst other support spells and abilities, and you've got yourself a pretty neat build. His key ability though, or ultimate you could say, is one that allows him to summon an evil lord once every 50 hours. An evil lord being these extremely high-level devils from Yggdrasil. Despite their appearances, they aren't unique creatures, nor are they custom-made NPCs like many of the other floor and area guardians. Rather, they are normally acquired as mercenary vassals. Basically, you acquire a magic item called a mercenary contract, and by expending a fee and consuming the contract, you're granted an allied vassal which can be given basic orders like guarding your guild base or following you around in combat. Of course, in the new world,
like a
this
golem
just
or
translates to a full-blown servant who is as loyal as any other Nazarick NPC. Though, unlike Ainz's undead summons that are usually permanent, Demiurge's evil lord will follow orders for a limited time before disappearing. Nazarick also purchased permanent versions of all 7 of the evil lords, so not only can Demiurge summon additional evil lords, he also has 7 evil lord minions. Envy, Greed, Sloth, Wrath, Pride, Lust, and Gluttony. Each of whom can summon another evil lord or just countless demon minions every day for free.
He just went with the 7 deadlies. I love that.
Instrumental during the invasion of the kingdom. But the effect doesn't snowball, since summoned creatures can't summon other creatures. The max evil lords that he could have at a time would be the one that he summons, the 7 that he rules over, then the 7 that they can summon, bringing us to a total of 15 evil lords at any given time.
That's still a lot.
In terms of raw combat power, he's actually among the weakest of the floor guardians, alongside Aura and Victim, with the lowest base combat stats among any of the known level 100 NPCs.
But I guess that also makes a certain amount of sense, because he's not, his build isn't for actively fighting people, like it's for staying in the back. That makes sense. It's sort of like they don't want to use D&D stuff, but like it makes sense to have, you have a person in your party who is the tank, who takes a lot of hits, who gives a lot of hits, who gets right up close and personal with whatever's going on, and then you got somebody staying in the back, and like a lot of times that's going to be a bard or something who can like buff their teammates and like do a couple of cool like thunder waves or something, or sometimes it's a rogue who hangs out in the back and just shoots arrows all the time from up high and then hides and then doesn't have any strength or armor. Like, and can't fight anybody hand to hand, but so it makes sense. He especially if he was built to be more of a commander, it's like he doesn't need to have combat abilities.
His offensive, defensive, physical, and magic stats all sit around the 50s and 60s. His resistance is what's maxed out, making debuffs and crowd control very difficult to apply on him. That being said, he can temporarily boost his physical capabilities, thanks to a selection of abilities called Aspect of the Devil. This one ability is split into several components, each granting a unique effect or buff. There's Archdemon's Wrist, which increases the size of his hands and wrists, thus moderately increasing his strength and allowing him to grapple and pin enemies or hold extremely large objects. Then Razor Sharp Claw, which elongates his fingernails into extremely large claws, turning them into powerful natural weapons.
Oh, I thought that those were just part of the shape-shifting thing. I didn't realize that that was like a feat he took.
Tentacle Wings, which sprout wings that can grant flight and shoot tentacle-like feathers at enemies at extremely high speeds. Then there's Stout Demon's Gigantic Arms, which greatly increases the size of his arms as well as his arm strength. And lastly, 8-Limbed Speed, which greatly increases his movement speed and agility. He may also have other Aspect of the Devil abilities that have yet to be revealed. When he stacks multiple of them together, this puts him approximately on par with Ainz when he's in his Momon persona, with his Perfect Warrior spell active, which, all things considered, is a relatively half-baked level 100 warrior. Clearly from this, Demiurge's ability to transform is put more towards a series of self-buffs and small changes to specific areas of his body, Sure, Albedo and Sebas were given the ability to transform into a final form, but Demiurge's changes aren't entirely what you or I would call a final form.
Okay.
I wonder if it's reasonable to rule out the idea that Wilbur just didn't consider giving Demiurge a final form just because he had a few shapeshifter levels. I imagine that regardless of what combination of races and classes he picked, he couldn't quite get the final form to look cool enough. After all, custom NPCs had to follow the same rules that ordinary players were subject to, and I would think that no matter how you made your character, you couldn't make it into a 30-foot-tall Balrog-looking creature.
Yeah,
no, instead
probably
he gave
not.
you the ability to temporarily boost his combat capabilities via the aspect of the devil. But of course, if he really wanted to be creative about things, he could summon a really strong, tough-looking evil lord like the Lord of Wrath, and then teleport away or go invisible. Even if the Lord of Wrath were...
Oh yeah, that'd be cool, because then it would look like... That's awesome. I like that. I feel like that's a Loki trick.
level than Demiurge, if it did have better physical combat stats, it would appear as if he transformed into it. This makes you wonder how the Shapeshifter class really fits into the game mechanically, as well as into his broader build. In a game focused so heavily around PvP and just combat in general, it can be difficult to think of a reason why the developers would make a class like this if all it let you do was just give yourself a frog's head or grow a pair of wings. I mean, if all we were after was just utility, a low-leveled arcane spellcaster can already access spells like Fly or even teleportation. So why create a class dedicated to something like this? And why would players even pick it? Well, Yggdrasil was supposed to have almost 1,000 different classes. So perhaps there were hundreds of such gimmick classes that, in the grand scheme of things, they were fairly worthless but still cool, I guess. If we
Wow, that's a lot.
Considering Yggdrasil's emphasis on the importance of information gathering, being able to get the jump on someone would provide a massive advantage in PvP. Perhaps shapeshifters were able to conceal their presence by transforming into harmless animals. Their health bar, name, and level would just disappear, or be replaced by that of a neutral creature.
So would it be like, it could be like hiding your chi in Dragon Ball or something, right? It's just like you can hide your power level, and like that could be really interesting.
That being said, Demiurge's transformations suggest that shapeshifting wasn't full body transformations. After all, the ability to transform one's entire body into something else, both in appearance as well as gameplay mechanics, was one of the powers of the doppelganger racial class tree. But rather than have two classes that do the exact same thing, I think it's a safer bet to assume that the Shapeshifter class lets you temporarily enhance your body with special effects and buffs.
Okay,
obviously,
makes sense.
Including things like wings for flight. Even beyond that, though, there could be way more combat-oriented buffs, such as growing a beast's hide to act as a natural armor, or growing a bat's ears and eyes to use echolocation and gain immunity to blindness effects. Perhaps something even like improved dodge rate with cat-like reflexes. But I think you get the point now. What about some of his active special abilities, which, as you may recall, have a limited number of uses per day? Because there is this cast limit, and the fact that he has a relatively small mana pool, he has to ration how he uses them. Though the diversity and flexibility in the spell options that he has provides a great amount of versatility despite there being this limited number. We've seen damage, utility, crowd control, and
it's not like the people he's doing stuff to knows that he's got a limited number of like times he can control the room, right? Like they might just assume that he can do that forever and always.
Buff spells. His known ones include Frost of Judecca, which completely freezes a target for a period of time. Greater Teleportation, which allows the caster to teleport themselves and others anywhere the caster had been before. Hellfire Wall, which conjures a wall of dark fire that deals high negative energy damage in a specific area. Flames of Gehenna, which buffs all allied demons in a targeted area with improved stats, empowered abilities, and increased drop rates.
Okay, so that's a good thing to know what that, because I was wondered what that actually does for a long time. I really thought it would just like evaporate people who went through it and they would just immediately go to hell or something. Okay, good to know what that actually does.
And lastly, there's Meteor Fall, which summons a massive meteor to land on a target location, blinding nearby enemies over a wide area as it falls, and then flattening all those in said location.
Yeah,
Demiurge also has one more tier 10 spell, but its capabilities are unknown. It also seems many of his known spells have a demonic or devilish theme to them. For instance, Judecca is one of the sections of the 9th level in Dante's Inferno, while Gehenna is just another term for hell. So it's possible a lot of his spells stem from his Prince of Darkness or Chaos classes. If we shift over to his equipment now, It's actually really straightforward. He has none, or at least no notable ones. Like, we know that the suit he wears might be an important or powerful item, and he definitely treasures it as a gift from his creator, but we've never gotten any details on it. He's never wielded
Yeah, it might just be like an armor thing, like, it's harder to hit him.
any other weapons or equipped any other pieces of armor either, preferring to just attack enemies with spells or abilities, while trusting in his suit and mask for protection. There is, however, one item that's worth noting. Ulbert was obsessed with a world item that could summon an unlimited army of demons into existence that would eventually swallow the entire world. And he became obsessed with the idea of crafting an item that could imitate this. He created several prototypes, but ultimately failed, since he couldn't manage to get the item to cast more than 5 spells simultaneously. His final attempt was a creepy-looking statue which contained 6 jewels that each had the power to cast the 10th tier spell, Armageddon Evil. But of course, the item could only cast 5 of them. As such, he left it in Demiurge's inventory, which was fitting for a commander of a devil army. Demiurge had intended to leave this item in the kingdom after his demons invaded it. He wanted to pretend it was the pretext for his invasion. Ainz handed him a weaker prototype that Ulbert had built to use instead, and suggested that Demiurge hold on to the powerful item that his creator had gifted to him. Demiurge, of course, was more than happy to.
Yeah, obviously.
Which brings us now to his build as a whole. Initially, I had said that it was oriented around summoning and buffing. Really though, that's just speculation. Yeah, he can summon devils, and has created at least one devil buffing spell in the novel. And he's supposed to be a commander, so it'd only make sense if his build was focused around the summoning and buffing of mass quantities of devils. Right? Well,
yes.
No, not necessarily. That's a pretty big leap of logic. After all, he can only actually summon a single evil lord himself, and he requires his other evil lords to summon the rest of the demon army for him. It'd be hard to be a mass summoner if you can only summon one thing yourself.
Okay,
so
I was a little confused about that.
What exactly is his build focused on then? Demiurge's selection of abilities are an explicit
I thought they'd said that he could summon like 7 or something.
reference to the mechanics shared by most Dungeons & Dragons fiends. While devils and demons in Dungeons & Dragons came in a variety of
Oh no, he can summon 1 and they can summon 7? I got lost somewhere in there.
forms with various strengths and weaknesses, the most prominent feature of all of them is their ability to summon a group of lesser demonic or devilish creatures. And as you'd naturally expect, if you were a more powerful or high-ranking devil or demon, you'd be able to call forth more powerful and high-ranking minions. On top of this, these stronger versions are almost all capable of casting a limited selection of powerful high-level spells. Then, some of them can even change their form at will. They are known to trick and tempt mortals into doing evil deeds, and routinely disguise their appearance using a transformation ability in order to do so. Lastly, many of them are extremely powerful and tough in a fight. They are frequently massive and intimidating in stature, mirroring Demiurge's ability to transform his body parts in order to properly throw hands with Ainz himself. Basically, Demiurge's capabilities are a love letter to the most iconic aspects of Dungeons & Dragons fiends. Once you view Demiurge's build as a roleplay build first, and not some kind of optimized power gaming PvP build, things begin to make a bit more sense. You
tracks.
see, while guild NPCs were ostensibly a mechanic for creating guards for the guild base, the vast majority of NPCs were just created for the fun of it, and they weren't necessarily intended to actually be useful in combat. That's not to say that Nazarick paid no mind to defenses. Nazarick's 8th floor is a literal death trap that could stop virtually any invasion by exploiting broken game mechanics. You know, like that casual 1500 player and NPC invasion that got absolutely annihilated in Yggdrasil. That aside though, custom NPCs were a rare opportunity to create a custom character with their own appearance and AI script, but had a limited number of levels to work with. Members would rather blow 41 levels on making 41 cute maids than make a single level 41 character which could be used to guard their base.
That's
so
fair.
Even though Demiurge was a level 100 floor guardian, that didn't mean his build had to be designed for PvP combat. He could blow those 10 levels on Shapeshifter to give himself those bat wings. Why not? He could take a few cool fiendish sounding spells like Frost of Judecca, or whatever, even if his mana pool was very low and his magic attack power wasn't really that high. It would still be something that matched his character and was worth using. But sometimes, it could all just be for the sake of design. This doesn't mean that he's weak though. Of course he can still curb stomp everybody in the New World. I mean, he is a level 100 floor guardian. That's pretty much a god in the New World, maybe even more powerful. His base stats alone are more than enough to crush most enemies of Nazarick, except for maybe an Elder Dragon. So having a roleplay build isn't quite as much of a—
It is interesting to know, though, like, I am curious to see if going through this series, if we will discover the types of things that exist in this world that could still mess up the Floor Guardians. Because so far, we've only really seen it happen once with, they had a world item they used on Sheltier. But I would be curious to see if there are other things that could maybe mess them up.
weakness as you may think. In fact, a Nazarick denizen's capabilities are determined from their background lore as much as they are from their Yggdrasil build, if not more so. Tactics, strategy, and intelligence play an extremely important role in determining how successful a character will be in combat, even at the highest levels of gameplay. Ainz had demonstrated this very clearly in his fight against Shaltir. The fact that Demiurge is a terrifyingly intelligent army commander might very well make him one of the strongest denizens of Nazarick, since he would be able to take on enemies far stronger than himself using a powerful combination of his wit and his demon armies.
Okay, so it's also similar to sort of like Batman, you know? Like, as long as he's got time to prepare, he could beat he could beat like anybody in the Justice League as long as he had time to prepare, except for Wonder Woman, I think, is what he thinks. But that's interesting. He could do it. Okay. Sometimes all you need to be is smart.
Honestly, the more that I think about it, the more I realize how similar to Lelouch that Demiurge can be. They're both not the strongest, but they make the best use of the resources that they have to literally play everybody else. But while we're speaking of Nazarick, our last topic will be his domain. Demiurge is the guardian of the 7th floor. Not much is known about the location, but its appearance is a fiery hellscape straight out of the deepest circles of hell. Before Nazarick was taken over by the guild, it was the home of a fierce and powerful fire dragon. After taking it over, Ulbert created a home for Demiurge known as the Blazing Temple. It looks like a ruined Grecian temple filled with destroyed monuments dedicated to various gods, almost as if demons had swooped in already and ransacked the temple and desecrated the monuments. Though it is a ruin, in a sense it's fitting for the leader of an army of demonic beings. At least Demiurge sees the poetry of a desecrated temple as a sign of Ulbert's love for him. The only other known locations on the 7th floor is a river of lava where a powerful level 90 slime creature known as Gurin resides. Demiurge has also been put in charge of Ashurbanipal, the library on the 10th floor of Nazarick. After all, this was where the bulk of items with the appearance of books and scrolls were stored. Demiurge of course would need to coordinate with the library denizens for his scroll manufacturing experiments.
That makes sense.
For the rest of his duties, he just relied on his own minions. So, in summary, we have an evil genius, a demon army commander, and most importantly, a bipedal sheep farmer. But how strong is he? Not very stats-wise, but his IQ levels are off the scales. So, given that he has enough time to plan, he could probably beat most people in a fight.
See?
And
that's what I
that,
said.
everyone, is Demiurge. Now, before I go, just a reminder that the Overlord t-shirts are available from the link in the description. It's a great way to support this channel while also being able to get something physical out of it. So if you want,
it is really
head over
cool,
to
that thing.
teespring.com/AniNews and see if there's a style that you like. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of Overlord content, then you already know what to do. So until next time, ciao.
Okay, ciao. All right, that was cool. That was interesting. I'm glad to have seen that. And again, yeah, like I said, I think I'm going to start from the top. I'm just going to start from the top and then work my way down. I was just like, I'd been so fascinated by Demiurge for so long that I was like, I really wanted to like delve into that. And then, but now looking at the list, it does kind of look like it might go in some kind of order, and it's not just this is what struck our fancy this time. So I'm sorry for that, for doing that out of order, but I will go back in and do it more in order, I think, going forward. I'm looking forward to learning more about this world and these characters, stuff that I will not get from the show itself. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.